Vincent van Gogh, Art 100 Final Project. Early life and the beginning of his art career. Vincent van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853, in Zundert, Netherlands. He died on July 29th, 1890, near Paris, France, making him 37 years old when he died. He was the eldest of 6 children and was the son of a Protestant pastor. Van Gogh became an apprentice to the Hague branch of the art dealers Goupil & Co. at 16 years old. He worked for Goupil & Co. in London from 1873 to 1875, and then in Paris until 1876. In 1874, he faced a devastating rejection from a London girl, which left him heartbroken and led to a period of darkness and solidarity. Despite this heartbreak, he continued to work. He was surrounded by art daily, which furthered his appreciation for it. However, he really disliked art dealing. He began to form a taste for artists including Rembrandt and Frans Hals, along with other Dutch artists. However, he preferred French artists such as Jean-François Millet and Camille Corot. These artists left an imprint on Van Gogh and influenced his art throughout the rest of his life. He also spent some time working as a language teacher, a lay preacher, and a bookseller. Pictured here is one of Van Gogh's many self-portraits, which was painted in 1889. Called by God. Van Gogh felt called by God, and he longed to serve humanity. He entered the ministry and began studying theology. In 1878, he began training for evangelism in Brussels, Belgium. He then left to help with mission work in the community of Borinage. Borinage was a very poor, coal mining region in southwestern Belgium. Here he faced a significant spiritual crisis. He was living among the poor, and he gave away all of his worldly belongings. He did this to help those in need and to show his dedication to the Lord. However, this resulted in his dismissal by church authorities because they believed that he understood Christ's teachings too literally. This left him broke and with many doubts about his faith. Van Gogh began drawing more seriously and realized he had many artistic skills. From here, he decided his new mission would be to bring comfort to humanity through his artwork. Pictured here is Van Gogh's The Church at Hours from 1890. Art career. Van Gogh started his art career in 1880 by attending Brussels Academy, where he studied drawing. In 1881, he moved to his father's land in Etten, Netherlands, where he worked in nature and began self-teaching different art techniques. Due to his inexperience, he found it quite difficult to self-teach. So to gain experience, Van Gogh returned to The Hague, which is a city in the Netherlands. Here, he worked with Anton Mauve, a Dutch landscape painter. He also immersed himself in art by visiting many museums and visiting with other artists. In 1883, Van Gogh decided he wanted to be alone with nature, so he lived in Drenthe for 3 months. Drenthe was an isolated area in northern Netherlands, which was visited by many artists. In 1884 and 1885, Van Gogh lived in Nuenen, where he further developed his art skills. During his time in Nuenen, Van Gogh gained confidence in his artwork and his art became much bolder. He painted still lifes, landscapes, and figures, each related to peasants and their daily lives, including the hardships which they faced and the land which they lived on. Throughout his career, Van Gogh completed more than 2,100 works of art. This included about 860 oil paintings and more than 1,300 watercolors, drawings, and sketches. His works are some of the more expensive pieces in modern times. Van Gogh's painting, Portrait of Dr. Gadget, which is pictured here, sold for $82.5 million. Mental health. By 1888, Van Gogh's mental health was deteriorating. He was living in Arles, France, and was suffering from both physical and mental illnesses. He was living off bread, coffee, and absinthe, and it is believed that he was even drinking turpentine and eating paint. He was acting strange and clearly not in the right mindset. One night, Van Gogh cut off his own ear. He then went to a local brothel and offered it to one of the prostitutes. The police found him the next morning and took him to the hospital. Van Gogh was fine, but he was still super depressed. He was later admitted to an asylum because the people of Arles believed that Van Gogh was a dangerous man. He began painting again during his time in the asylum, and he began to receive credit for his works. On July 27, 1890, Van Gogh went out to paint. He brought a loaded gun, and he shot himself. It did not kill him, so he was taken to a nearby hospital, where he then died 2 days later, on July 29, 1890. This is one of Van Gogh's paintings of the asylum which he stayed in. Style. Van Gogh is considered one of the greatest post-impressionist artists. Post-impressionism is a genre of painting that declined the naturalism that impressionists practiced. It instead used color and form in a more expressive way. Post-impressionism was a mostly French movement, with Van Gogh being one of the few important post-impressionists who was not French. Van Gogh also greatly influenced expressionism, which utilizes striking color, energetic brushwork, and contoured forms. These paintings, Bedroom in Arles from 1888 and Wheat Field with Crows from 1890, are both great examples of post-impressionist art. Famous quotes. Van Gogh has many famous quotes which emphasize his characteristics and the different parts of his life. His quote, "But I always think that the best way to know God is to love many things," shows the Christian aspects of his life. I think that this quote is important and very true. I think that God wants us to show our faith by showing love to others around us. Van Gogh's next quote, "I want to paint what I feel and feel what I paint," shows the importance of painting in Van Gogh's life. It shows all of the meaning and feeling which Van Gogh put into each one of his paintings. Some of Van Gogh's quotes show his intense emotions and ways that he thought about life. These quotes include, "I am a fanatic. I feel a power within me, a fire that I may not quench, but must keep ablaze." And, "When one has fire within oneself, one cannot keep bottling it up. Better to burn than to burst. What is in, will out." I feel like his use of the words fire and power show the intensity behind his beliefs and feelings. My favorite of Van Gogh's quotes, which I read, was, "Enjoy yourself too much rather than too little, and don't take art or love too seriously." I like this quote because I do think it's important to enjoy yourself and to enjoy life. I also thought it was interesting that as an artist, he said to not take art too seriously. Important works of art. A couple of Van Gogh's most popular works of art include Starry Night, Sunflowers, and The Potato Eaters. Pictured here is Starry Night from 1889, which is one of Van Gogh's most recognizable and iconic paintings. This oil painting is a combination of imagination, memory, emotion, and observation, which he created while in the asylum. Referring to this painting, Van Gogh wrote to his brother Theo, "This morning I saw the countryside from my window a long time before sunrise, with nothing but the morning star, which looked very big." Starry Night is now in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, New York. Pictured here is Sunflowers, which Van Gogh painted in 1889. Van Gogh's Sunflowers is a series of 5 oil paintings of sunflowers in a vase. These paintings use different shades of yellow throughout and a bit of green. Van Gogh believed that the sunflowers represented gratitude. Today these paintings are spread throughout the world in different museums, including museums in London, Amsterdam, Tokyo, Munich, and Philadelphia. The Potato Eaters, which Van Gogh painted in 1885, was one that I found kind of interesting. Potato Eaters is just one of Van Gogh's many paintings which depict peasant life. This painting is important because it was a main work which shows Van Gogh's artistic development. The Potato Eaters allowed him to experiment with light and shadows and to help him develop his technique and style. It is now housed in the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. Van Gogh began to get recognized for his work in 1889 when he was invited to exhibit his paintings in Brussels. However, it wasn't until after he died that his fame began to grow. In March 1901, over 70 of his paintings were displayed at a show in Paris, which was a big step in growing his popularity. Today, Vincent van Gogh is believed to be one of the best artists of all time.